Hey guys, welcome to the Frack and Friend Show. Today's guest is Mr. Ben Beck.
What's up?
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going. I'm here.
You're here?
I'm here.
It's now?
I said it's here, and you said it's now, and it made me feel like I was ready to break into a Van Halen song. That was weird.
I was gonna go to High School Musical, but you know that's cool too.
Never saw it. Can't.
Hey,
say
it's a generation
right
I was born with, man.
It was
That's
either that or
with.
Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim. Like that's where my mind was going too.
Different generations, different minds. The way we think, man. I go Disney. You go full heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
Well, I guess not heavy metal, but you know,
Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
Or were you referring to Van Halen?
Van Halen.
Still
yes.
not heavy metal.
Van Halen's just incredible, by the way. Let's give him props.
Depends on which version of Van Halen you're talking about.
Van
Halen or Van Hagar.
Oh yeah. So, man, what I want to start off, or how I want to start off with, is let's go ahead and get you an introduction. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself, and what do you do for fun? Oh,
it's one of those shows where I don't even get an introduction. I have to do it myself.
I mean, why should I put in the effort?
I'm only kidding. You and I happened to meet as I was passing you on the street, and you just tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I wanted to do a podcast. And
it's true.
No, that's not true at all. So I'm a podcaster. I've been podcasting for about 8 years now. I'm a panel moderator at conventions. I do programming for conventions, which is actually how you and I met.
That's right.
I was the one responsible for getting you on stage with Joey Fatone in Atlanta.
Legendary moment.
So you're welcome for that. But no, you did a great job. So I was pleased to have brought you on to do that. So I'm a podcaster, I'm a panel moderator, I'm a content creator. I've been doing it for a number of years now, and that's what I do for fun too, man. Like, it's just, I love being behind a microphone, whether it's podcasting, whether it's on stage. Like, it is my literal comfort zone. Like, doesn't matter how bad of a day I'm having, what's going on in my life, being behind the microphone, whether it be at home here in my studio or on stage in some city in the country, or holding the microphone, sitting next to somebody, it is where I escape everything that is happening, and I am truly comfortable, and I love doing it. So I have turned it into as much of a full-time career as I can. And it's what I do.
Hey, man, it seems like you're very, very passionate about moderating and just being involved in comic conventions and different panels. So why don't you go ahead and tell us how you got your start with it?
Again, I have to do all the work, man.
I'm talking so much.
No, it's fine. I actually started doing major metropolitan radio. I'm from just outside of Philadelphia, so that's where I live now. And I started as I started doing promotions for a station here in the Philadelphia area, which eventually led to me applying for a weekend position. And I didn't get a full-time position, but occasionally, if they needed someone to fill in because somebody was taking a vacation day, I became what's known in broadcast as a weekend warrior. Wow. So you are basically somebody who just fills in on the weekends. If somebody during the week takes off, they move somebody from the weekend shift into the weekday because they're already a full-time employee, which means you have a bunch of little peons who fill in those weekend spots because it's only one day or it's only one night or whatever. So started doing that, which led into me actually getting into DJing, like the actual event kind of DJing.
Not hit one key and it just starts playing from a set list, or
that's absolutely the kind of DJ I was.
Oh, really?
I did not mix. No, because I did weddings and things like that. And you don't spin at weddings. It doesn't work.
And if you do, all hats to you.
If you do, I mean, more power to you. You're right. But it's that's something you don't spin at weddings. Yeah. So I got into doing birthday parties and weddings and things like that because the money was good and I enjoyed music. So that was the reason why I did that. And then that eventually led me into podcasting with a friend of mine. We started a podcast at the time called The Showcast, which was more a morning show format, but in podcast form.
Yeah.
So we started doing news segments for the week and things like that. And then after a couple months, we started discussing like, hey, we should try and get a guest. And I was like, nobody knows who we are. We're not going to book anybody. And literally within a week, we booked the winner of American Idol, Chris Allen.
Come on.
Which was fantastic. And from that point on, we started booking more and more and more people. And not everybody was well known, but occasionally we would get someone like I remember the one day we got Curtis Armstrong, who played Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, Curtis is willing to come on. This is great.
Wow.
Or he just has nothing better to do.
Yep.
And he came on and he was great. And then we started looking at numbers of the show. And we were like, well, you know what? When we have a guest, our numbers are much higher than they are when it's just us talking. So we eventually transitioned into just conversations. Like that's all the podcast became. We got rid of the talk segment and just put out conversations, which eventually led to my co-host at the time leaving, to just becoming me, which led to me formatting into one-on-one conversations, which then it became the Spotlight, which still exists now. However, now I do a top 5 formatted podcast about movies and television. And then I've just recently combined the Spotlight and Wilhelm, which is my television and movie one, into one. So now everything is in one podcast, which means I'm guaranteeing format every week.
Yep.
I have interviews scheduled still to happen. I just found out about another one literally right before we started recording, that I'm having the legendary actor James Brolin on my podcast in June.
Oh,
which,
man.
Come on. Like,
legendary.
I'm having Kevin Smith on the podcast with hopefully in the next week or two. More of the guys from Clerks. I've got voiceover actors from Red Dead Redemption coming on. I've got a shared guest of yours, William Sadler, is coming on the podcast soon.
Shout out to Mr. William.
A number of people, and I love having conversations with people, whether they're people in the entertainment industry or whether they're just fellow podcasters, and we're talking movies and television. And that's all the podcast is about. It's either a celebrity coming on to talk about their career, or it's a friend or podcaster coming on to talk movies and television. Eventually, I'd like to have one of those celebrities come on to talk about their top 5 favorite TV moms or whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that point later.
Yeah, I mean, even in those episodes, you can kind of even just tell them like, y'all can be talking about an actor or just about any kind of specific movie, and you can always go back and say, what's your top 5 movies? And that's going to be about a 45-minute conversation right there.
Well, the interesting thing is too, for Fandemic, when Fandemic was originally which is the convention that I brought you into, which is the show we did in Atlanta,
that's right.
about back in March. When before Fandemic got postponed to March, and it was supposed to be in September. This is before we merged with Atlanta Comic-Con. It was originally on the schedule that I was going to do a live Wilhelm podcast on stage with Ross Marquand.
Wow.
And Ross and I were going to do top 5 favorite zombie movies because it was appropriate to The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Because that was back when the show was still called Fandemic Dead.
That's right.
Before it changed when we moved it to March. So it was originally going to happen back in September of last year, before the show got postponed thanks to the pandemic, that Ross and I were going to we weren't even going to talk about his career. We were literally just going to do a podcast on stage together just to talk about our top 5 favorite zombie movies.
Wow.
And it would have been awesome.
Yes.
And we were still trying to make it work for March, but the show became so big, merging with Atlanta Comic-Con, that Ross became so busy at that show because of cancellations. We had Sebastian Stan cancel. Norman didn't cancel?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Norman got hurt.
That's right. Norman got injured. And so because of Norman's cancellation, because of Sebastian Stan's cancellation, Ross became more and more popular.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that too.
Like so much so that he didn't do any panels that weekend. Like we had him scheduled, and 5 minutes before his panel, we got news Ross was not going to make it.
Man.
And it became a panel with just Seth Gillum and oh God, he played Jesus in
I'm trying to
why can't I think of his name? Anyway, it's not important. So the having the celebrity on to talk the top 5 almost happened.
Wow.
So I'm confident it will eventually happen.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually have Kevin Smith on to talk about our top 5 favorite Kevin Smith movies, because Kevin would do that.
I don't know. Well, let's go ahead and do that right now. What's your at least top 3 favorites?
Jesus. Top 3 favorites.
I can tell you mine instantly.
Number 3, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
Number 2, Clerks 2.
Ooh, okay.
Number 1, easy, Dogma.
Oh,
Easily.
Man.
Dogma.
Ours is kind of the same, but mine would definitely be, I know it sounds crazy, but Tusk. Like, dude, now, let's say number 1, Dogma. 2, of course, Clerks. 3, Tusk. And I know Tusk is not a fan favorite.
Well, but I like it.
But it is now. But like when it released, it was not a favorite of many. But I am a huge Tusk fan. Like anybody who comes over, I'm always trying to talk to him about it. I'm like, it's a guy. He's sewn into a walrus costume. I mean, it's insane. And they're like, what?
Tusk and Yoga Hosers are both, I think, incredibly underrated. As is, I think, Red State. If you've never seen that.
Absolutely.
Red State, I think, is incredibly underrated.
I actually didn't know Kevin was a part of that.
Oh, Kevin wrote and directed Red State.
I don't even know how I didn't know this.
Yeah. That was his first foray into horror, and it was scary.
It was.
It was scary because it was real.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, and a couple weeks ago, I was just on stage with Kevin and Jason, and I moderated a panel with Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson and Trevor Furman, all those guys from Clerks. They just had their 25th anniversary in New Jersey this past weekend. Because I got invited to go and I couldn't make it. Brian O'Halloran invited me to come up for it, and unfortunately I couldn't make it. But it would have been an incredible opportunity.
Absolutely.
But I'll be working with those guys again in August, so I'm not concerned.
That's how I feel kind of about some things. If I miss some things, I know there will be another opportunity, or at least sometimes I know there's something else coming, So let's go ahead and dive into this real quick. But the show's base is more of the 90s and early 2000s. So we also...
Just kidding.
So when it comes down to let's just say the 90s, man, what were some of the memories for you?
The 90s for me, man, I think just music alone, the 90s, and I mean this is showing my age, but I mean that was my teen years. I mean, I was born in 79, so my teenage years were through the 90s, and that was really when I started to discover the love for the music that I have now. Obviously I wanted to keep up with what was popular because I was in high school at the time. I was in middle school and I was in high school at the time, so everything that was popular, what was being played at our school dances and everything like that, that I wanted to keep up with that. But that was also more towards late 90s in high school and college. I graduated in high school in 98. So, 97, 98, 99, I was really getting into Dave Matthews Band. I was really starting to find a lot of, I know you have a lot of boy band people on the show and stuff, but I was more into, it was at that time I was starting to get into more the alternative. scene. So I was starting to get into Eve 6, and I was starting to get into Sum 41, and I was starting to get into Incubus and all these alternative rock bands that I still love.
Me too.
To this day.
Me too.
But don't get me wrong. Like I didn't appreciate the boy bands at the time they were out. I grew to appreciate them later after they were already past.
Yeah.
You know, oh God, Baby When the Lights Go Out by Five.
Wow.
Still love that song. Like, and if it's in my playlist, it's in my playlist. And when I'm cranking, like when I have the radio playing in my car while I'm driving around, if that song comes on, that song gets cranked.
Oh man.
You know, same thing with some Backstreet Boys stuff.
Yeah.
Like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. You know, if Bye 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 comes on, boom,
That's
radio gets cranked right up. I mean, I didn't appreciate it at the time.
Yeah.
But the older I got, my appreciation for other kind of music started to grow. And I started to appreciate more what those bands are.
And why do you think you didn't appreciate it at the time?
I think it was, I don't think peer pressure is the right word.
Yeah.
I think it was more demographic.
Yeah.
I didn't fall into the demographic of people who listened to that music. Again, like I was I was a horn player through middle school and high school. So I was in concert band. I was in marching band. And because I was surrounded by people who just loved music, I got to experience a lot of music. Like in the 90s, when I say that was like my music revolution, like it wasn't just music from the 90s. That was when I really started to discover music from the 80s and music from the 70s. Like I remember sitting in the orchestra room cranking Billy Joel. Man, you know, like late 80s, early 90s Billy Joel. So it was very demographic for me. I didn't hang out with the kind of people that listened to that kind of music, and my family didn't listen to that kind of music. So if I was in the car with my father or my mother, it was classic rock or country.
Oh wow.
I still enjoy both to this day. I still enjoy country. I don't listen to newer country, but like Brooks and Dunn, Garth Brooks, Montgomery Gentry, Joe Diffie, like I still listen to that country. Toby Keith, you know, Tracy Lawrence, Martina McBride, Reba McEntire. Like I can keep listing artists.
Literally the greats. I mean, literally. Yeah. Like you just named the greats.
George Strait, Randy Travis. Like and I still listen to them to this day. So yeah, I think the only reason why I didn't get into that music then, like I said, it was just not my demographic.
Yeah. I mean, you know, growing up, I was born in 92. So, you know, once that, you know, the youngest recollections of my life revolved around, you know, the 97 to 99 kind of music. So of course it was like literally Backstreet Boys, and it was all these different individuals, and you had Aaron Carter and all these, you know, of course, Spice Girls and, you know, things like that. But I also grew up loving every other genre pretty much. I didn't really listen to rap as a kid. I wasn't listening to NWA at 5 or 6 years old.
Exactly.
You know,
you were a little too young for the rap scene at that time.
I wasn't ready for the truth. But you know, it's crazy to think about that, because my entire childhood revolved around so many things in the 90s. But my dad was the one who really like put in, you know, Engelbert Humperdinck CDs and Hall & Oates and George Jones and different people like that, you know. So I was really well educated as a child because of my dad when it comes down to music. So I had an appreciation for everything. But of course, at that time of me growing up, you know, the Backstreet Boys, all the boy bands, all these individuals, you know, of course, you know, the rockers like Creed and Nickelback, right? Like all these individuals were what, like you just said, the demographic, what they were listening to. And so, you know, it's really interesting hearing because I've never had anybody on the show who talked about Sum 41.
Right? Come on.
I mean, for real, man. Like you just brought that back to me. I'm like, I don't have them on my Spotify.
but I mean, like there were other artists that I started to get into, like I started branching out, like, okay, if I like this, what else would I like? And I started getting into bands like Tantric and and like you mentioned Creed, and I was a Creed fan when Creed came out, and then when Scott Stapp left the band and they became Alter Bridge, I became a much bigger fan of Alter Bridge.
Didn't know anything about this.
Really? Oh
No.
yeah. What? So you're not familiar with Alter Bridge, or you didn't know Alter Bridge used to be Creed?
Both.
Okay. There is a band called
Wow.
Alter Bridge, and it is basically Creed without Scott Stapp. And I became a much bigger fan of Alter Bridge because Scott Stapp and Creed were a Christian rock band.
Yeah.
For those that don't really know,
Definitely.
they were a rock band, but they were Christian rock. Like they were heavily into, Christian faith.
Absolutely.
Alter Bridge, and that was very heavy on Scott Stapp's side. Like he was the leader of the band, so that's kind of where that influence came from. When Scott left and they formed Alter Bridge, they weren't like oh, like rah, F this, F that. Like they were still rock, but they found a little bit more of an edge.
Wow.
Which is what I really like. And if I don't know, are you a fan of WWE at all?
A little bit, yeah.
If you go back to when, I don't think he uses it anymore, but if you go back, I think about a decade to Edge.
Yep.
When Edge went solo, his theme song, Metalingus, is Alter Bridge. That's an Alter Bridge song.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah. So Alter Bridge is in the popular.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of not everybody knows about them.
So were they underground or were they actually on radio waves?
No, they got radio. They got radio play. And they have a number of albums out now, too. Dude, trust me. Next time you're on Spotify, look up Alter Bridge.
After this episode, literally every episode we talk about something, I'm like, all right, download all.
Yeah. I mean, but don't get me wrong. Like I said, when I was in high school, I mentioned demographic.
Yeah.
I don't want that to sound like I was totally ignorant of boy bands and things like that.
No.
Because as a high school male, you wanted to meet girls.
Yeah.
And the girls were into that kind of music. So if you at least knew about them, it helped your case.
Oh, yeah. Or if you look like one, right?
Oh, that never happened with me. Never happened with me.
Come on, man. You didn't have the gold locks or anything?
No. Was never blonde in my life.
Oh.
And will never be blonde in my life.
Yeah, me neither.
Ever.
I know, no matter how much peer pressure, I never dyed my hair blonde.
I thought about it, just never did it.
I thought about it. I said it just wouldn't look good.
No, that's how I am too. I'm Italian. Like we look better with darker hair.
I've never ever met an Italian with blonde hair.
Oh, they exist.
Really?
Yeah, but it's fake. It's usually fake blonde hair.
Yeah. Wow. So, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, us growing up. So you said you were born in 1979?
79.
So basically 80. So
basically, because it was November of 79. So it was mid-November of 79. So I lived in the 70s for about a month and a half. So my childhood was the 80s, which is another reason why I still adore 80s music. Like I will listen to like Aha and Asia. And
that's what I think about the first person when someone says 80s. Aha.
Take On Me. Like it's a perennial 80s song. But like I was a fan of Journey, and I still am a fan of Journey and Aerosmith, and and it's funny because the older that I get, I still learn about music. Like
me too.
Like it's
literally today.
And yeah, that's right. I just taught you a lesson. But I mean, my appreciation for other bands continues to grow. Like I was for the longest time, my favorite artists were The Police, AC/DC, and Dave Matthews Band, which The Police and AC/DC you can kind of group together, but Dave certainly does not fit in that genre. He kind of stands out. This was maybe about 15 years ago. Over the past 5 years, my number one band has changed. It's now a band that wasn't even in my top 3.
Oh, wow.
And that's the Talking Heads. Or Talking Heads. There's no the before Talking Heads. It's just Talking Heads.
I've never heard of the Talking Heads.
Shut up.
No.
You've seriously never heard of Talking Heads?
But one thing I have to say is that like rock?
Yes.
I didn't really listen to rock as a child. Like I listened to rock, but not like the
You know Talking Heads music. I guarantee you, Burning Down the House.
That sounds familiar. Not the term, but
so
the song.
Have you seen Clerks 2?
Yeah.
The opening to Clerks 2 is a Talking Heads song.
Okay, well, yeah, so I do know who they are.
So you've without a doubt heard Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you went on Spotify and looked up some of their more popular songs,
I know them all.
You'll know them. You will know most of them, if not all of them. But I've gotten into, I've taken deep dives into Talking Heads.
Come on.
And
man.
I love Talking Heads now. But that's one of the things I love about music is the more appreciation I gain for a band or artist, it doesn't lessen my love for the ones I've had before.
Definitely.
I still love AC/DC. I still love Dave Matthews Band. I still love the Police. I just now have a greater appreciation for Talking Heads.
And that's how it comes to a lot of things for me too, man. Especially there's bands that I didn't like, and I'm sure you could probably name some for you as well, but there's bands and individuals and artists that I didn't really care for as a child.
Oh yeah.
But now I think they're royalty. Like they're just great.
I can name you two right off the bat of artists who I know people loved when I was younger, but I didn't appreciate it.
Who's that?
But now I adore them.
Yeah.
Prince and David Bowie.
Me too, and me too.
Yeah.
No joke.
I grew when I was younger and I would hear Bowie songs, I would be like, this is just weird. Same with Prince. And then the older I got and the more I started listening to him, I'm like, this isn't weird. This is genius.
Yes.
This is,
you understand more too.
Yes.
And
now, Sirius XM not too long ago for David Bowie's birthday dedicated a station that was playing nothing but David Bowie for 2 months. And during that 2 months, that was all I listened to.
Come on.
Was that station.
Wow, man.
And they were playing some deep cuts too of stuff that I had never heard before. And I actually loved hearing songs I hadn't heard.
That's my favorite thing. I do like every now and then, I'll go to Spotify, shuffle, whatever, and I'll hear a song that I haven't heard in a few years. But I love discovering music. And that's one thing the generation, going forward to today, people don't discover music. They just listen to what's on the radio. In the 90s, I remember giving CDs of underground artists, even Jason Mraz. I heard I'm Yours 3 or 4 years before it became his hit.
Dude, I saw Breaking Benjamin play a bar in Scranton before they ever got radio play.
Wow.
I remember going to a bar in Scranton to see Breaking Benjamin play before they ever hit the radio. And then they got huge.
Yeah.
For a while.
Massive.
But to follow your point, not only do I like discovering music, I like rediscovering music. Like you said, hearing that song I haven't heard in a while. Going through and finding, if I go on Spotify or if I go on Amazon Music, Amazon Music has channels specifically called Rediscover.
Yeah.
And it's Rediscover the 90s or Rediscover the 80s or Rediscover Alternative. Wow. And I'll put on Rediscover Alternative, and then all of a sudden All She Wants by Toad the Wet Sprocket comes on. And I'm like, man. Jesus, I haven't heard this song in forever. Or man. Blind Melon comes on. And I'm the same way. I love rediscovering music that I haven't heard in forever. And even sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But it could even be a song that I know when it was popular, I didn't really appreciate it at the time. And then I'll hear it on this Rediscover station. It'll play, and I'll be like, wow, I don't remember this song ever being this good.
Yep. And it's really true, because if you think about it, how else are, this is one of the perks of having these streaming platforms nowadays, because how else are we going to discover music anymore? Because you turn on the radio, it's the same 6 to 10 songs most of the time, especially local radio. That's
why I don't listen to radio.
I
only listen to streaming services.
I had someone challenge me about 3 or 4 episodes ago and said, turn on, because like you, I only listen to my Spotify. I have 7,000 something songs on it. It builds every single day. But
Same.
I turned on the radio the other day, and this was I think like last Saturday, for the first time in my car, by the way, because it's always on auxiliary or Bluetooth. And I'm gonna tell you, I lasted about a half a song, because I said, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is awful. And I went back to my 90s.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I have, I don't even know the number now. It's in the upper thousands of songs in my playlist, and that I'm constantly adding to it all the time. And that's how I am. Like, I literally would get in my car, and if I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm hitting shuffle on my library. And my library, like, I have playlists created. Like, I have a classic rock playlist, I have an 80s playlist, I have a dance playlist, surprisingly. If I were to pull it up, and I'm letting it boot up now to tell you some of the songs that are in this playlist, it is ridiculous. But I played it for a friend of mine. I'm bringing it up on my phone.
Yeah,
it's just faster. I played it for a friend of mine, and she was like, "You need to send this to me. This playlist is amazing." And it's it's this one here. So it's What Is Love by Hadaway, Show Me Love by Robin S., Gonna Make You Sweat, CC Music Factory, Rhythm of the Night by Corona, Grooves in the Heart by Delight, Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic, Rhythm is a Dancer by Snap, Mr. Vane by Culture Beat. Like this, I have a dance playlist in my playlist.
That's incredible.
Finally by CeCe Peniston. Now That We Found Love by Heavy D and the Boys.
Yeah,
it is a Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. It is a good 150 songs.
Yeah,
that's just nothing but dance music. It all depends on the mood that I'm in. And when I go to songs and I hit shuffle all, it's a crapshoot. Because it could be classic rock, it could be alternative rock, it could be 80s rock, it could be 90s rock, it could be 90s pop, it could be 80s pop, or it could be country. It could be 90s dance. It could be show tunes, because I have show tunes mixed in there too. Like it could go from like Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith to Yorktown from Hamilton. Like it's a total crapshoot. But I don't care. Like
definitely.
I don't care. I will hit shuffle and just let it run. And very rarely do I ever hit skip.
Me too, honestly. Me too. It has to be really bad in some kind of way for me to hit skip.
Like if I'm in an upbeat mood, if I'm driving, it's beautiful outside, the windows down, I don't want to hear some sad, somber song.
Whiskey Lullaby.
Oh my God, like Whiskey Lullaby by Brad Paisley, or Faithfully by Journey. It is an amazing song. I don't want to slow it down.
No.
But now if Separate Ways by Journey comes on, I test to see how loud my radio will go. Because that is my all-time favorite Journey song. And that is the one song that when it comes on, my radio is as loud as it goes. And my hand is beating on the steering wheel and beating on the armrest. And it's, God, I love that song.
Man.
It depends on the mood.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, I've never really ever thought about making a playlist until now, because no one's ever, like, I've never discussed that with anyone. And I just usually hit shuffle, and I mean, what comes on is what I get, and unless it's really terrible, or like you said, some kind of somber song when I'm just like driving at night or something, I'm like, I can't go to sleep, skip. But other than that, which usually it's not disappointing. Sometimes I think my Spotify understands who I am, because it always chooses the best songs, Well, like going into my music tastes and how they really reach all boundaries. There have been times where I have an hour and a half drive home, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning,
and it depends on my mood. If I am like excited from whatever I'm just coming from, it will be rock or 80s or something. It'll be upbeat music that I'm playing and I'm doing it along. But every once in a while, like I just went through some stuff. I kind of just want to chill. And sometimes I'll put on jazz.
Yeah.
And I will just let jazz play. And I will just go into like Herb Alpert, or I'll go into B.B. King and Eric Clapton, or I'll go into Miles Davis, or or Louis Armstrong. Like I will just let some smooth jazz. I'll just let some jazz play because I just want to hear some horn and just kind of relax and chill. So it all really depends on my mood.
Yeah.
And because music drives my life, and it will always drive my life.
I always say music takes the steering wheel for me. I've always said that, but some people say that's not true.
Not true for you, or not true in general?
No, it's not true because your hand should be on the steering wheel.
Oh, well, that too. Jesus, take the wheel.
One thing I do want to discuss, man, and you actually just mentioned it, is show tunes and Broadway. What's your background in those things, man?
So I was a performer in high school and middle school and high school and college. Like I did, in middle school and high school, I did stage shows. I did the musicals. In high school, I did musicals and I did stage plays, and I also did Shakespeare troupe. So I performed Shakespeare on stage.
Wow.
In college gets a little more serious, where you actually have to audition for things. Like in high school and middle school, you audition, but even if you don't get the lead, you still get a part. Like you get the tree. Everybody's exactly. You're just part of the chorus in the background. But then when you hit college and you have to audition, and if you don't do a well enough job, well, you just don't get a part. Like it's not like everybody's included like high school. And I auditioned in college, and I got some parts, and some parts I didn't. And I've been really wanting to get back to it too. And I actually decided this year, where I live, there's a number of community theaters all around the place. And one of the theaters just announced their schedule for 2022 and 2023. And there are a number of shows on it that I would love to do. Two of them in particular, possibly a third. I don't know if I'm ready to do singing on stage yet, but I definitely want to do stage play performance. And it's not even really the singing I have a problem with. It's more the singing auditioning. Yeah. That's where I'm a little uncomfortable. Acting on stage, speaking, auditioning, fine with that.
I think it'd be the same thing for me too.
I do that in front of 300 people because that's what I do on stage at cons.
Yep.
Like I'm basically performing, and so but yeah, the theater by me, 3 of the shows that they're doing are Rent, which is one I'm not sure I'm going to do because that's a singing audition. Yeah. But the 2 for sure that I'm auditioning for, they are doing Clue, the stage play. And they are doing Much Ado About Nothing, which is Shakespeare. So I've been meaning to do it for over a decade now. I've been wanting to audition for stuff again. So I'm like, even if I don't get the part, I'm still going out to audition just for the sake of auditioning again.
Yeah.
But I mean, on top of that, like as far as like Broadway and things like that too, I love going to see shows whenever I get the chance. I will absolutely sing show tunes at karaoke or with friends. We sing alongs with friends and things like that. So it's, I have a love, again, it's a love for all music, and it's a love for performing, and Broadway shows or show tunes are kind of just the mix of both of those. So there's no reason not to love them. And they, and they provide emotion. Like it's
definitely,
I mean, I one example of a show that I didn't think I would like was Shrek.
Oh,
and I had friends show me that show because it's on Netflix now.
Yep.
And I didn't think I would. I was like, oh, Shrek the Musical. Like, I like the movies, but how's that work as a musical? It is quite literally one of my top 3 favorite musicals of all time.
I have to agree with you.
I love the music from it. And that's what makes the show. Like I every once in a while, like every couple months, I'll put that on and I'll rewatch it. And sing along with it every time. You know, and it's just when it's the song right before the intermission in Shrek. For anybody who's listening, who's seen it, it's the song with Shrek singing about who he'd like to be, and the song's called "Who I'd Be." Dude, I belt that song every time it comes on.
Come on, man!
I belt it every time.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with the producers. Like, I will belt. Yeah. I want to be a producer, or I will belt. You know, that, well, you don't belt that face because that's more of a ballad, but you know, yeah, and Hamilton, like, dude, I'm late to the game on Hamilton.
I'm very late because I still haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. You're missing out so bad.
I'm going to try to see it next week.
It got so hyped to me that I was afraid to watch it because I was like, I don't know if it's going to live up to all the hype that everybody is building towards it.
Yeah.
And then Disney Plus put it out during the pandemic. And I was like, all right, this is my opportunity. Like, I didn't even know any of the music, didn't even listen to any of the music from it. Like, I know friends who knew it word for word, like every action.
I know a lot. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, the only thing from that show I know is I'm not throwing away my shot. That's it. And then Disney Plus released it. So I was like, I'm not going to watch it with friends. I'm just going to sit at home. I'm going to watch it myself just to see how I feel.
Wow.
And I'm like, this show is amazing. It lives up to every bit of hype anybody has ever given it. And since then, I have not only watched the show 4 or 5 times, I have easily listened to the soundtrack at least 20.
Come on, man.
And I will sing along every time. Like, there's a lot of rap in Hamilton.
Yeah.
But I can rap all those parts.
That's cool, man. You know, it's an interesting thing because I didn't see it because usually I like going to see things on Broadway or seeing things in New Orleans at the Singer Theater, the touring editions, you know. But I was supposed to go see Hamilton years and years ago, and I just didn't want to pay what they were, you know, wanting for ticket prices at the time. Like, yeah, and I mean, you know, which today I signed up for the lottery for all days that I'm going to New York to see. Hopefully, I get, you know, at least one ticket for Hamilton, but I'm definitely going to make it a mission to go see Hamilton one way or the other. But my introduction with Lin-Manuel was Mary Poppins sequel,
which I still haven't seen.
And I was blown away by him. Like, I'm talking about, whoa. And then In the Heights came out, and I was like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Like, you know,
if you like Mary Poppins and In the Heights,
yes,
you are going to love Hamilton.
Yeah, and that's what people have told me the last 4 or 5 years since Hamilton's been out. I mean, it's been a while now, but everyone that I know who are just musical Broadway affiliated has said you need to sit down and watch Hamilton. I'm like, I'm going to in person, hopefully. Well, you know,
yeah. I mean, and 2 other projects of Lin-Manuel Miranda's too that I'm a big fan of are Tick Tick Boom, which is the backstory of how Rent.
Jonathan Larson.
Yeah, Jonathan Larson's backstory. And
what a movie, by the way.
And Moana, which was the music from Moana was written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Really?
Yes. So Shiny and You're Welcome, and like those are all written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Wow.
I just blew your mind.
Yeah, because I don't know much about him. I mean, I only know every time I see him, whatever, you know, in a movie, whatever, but wow.
Yeah.
That's was that his start or
no. In the Heights, I think, was his first show that he wrote.
Okay.
Because In the Heights was before Hamilton.
Wow.
But it got him
with Vanessa Hudgens, right?
In the Heights?
Yeah, she was.
I don't remember if Vanessa Hudgens was in that or not.
She was in one of the adaptions, I should say.
But that's what got him the clout to make Hamilton, was In the Heights. Wow. See, like you, like I would love to see Hamilton on stage, especially in New York.
So you haven't?
Oh no, I've never seen the stage performance of Hamilton.
Oh man,
the Disney Plus version is the stage performance of Hamilton.
Is Lemon in that?
Oh yeah, it's the
Okay,
entire original.
It's the
cast.
OG. Oh,
it is the original.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm gonna have to watch it then.
And at the time, they filmed that. Lin-Manuel had already moved beyond Hamilton, and Jonathan Groff had already moved past the King, King George. But when Disney Plus decided to film it, the beauty of it was that the guy that was playing Hamilton decided, I'm going to take a step back so Lin can come back. And the guy that was playing the King also did the same thing. He's like, well, I'm going to take a step back so that Jonathan can come back.
Wow.
Because they were the OG cast.
Definitely.
So they came back specifically, I think, for 3 or 4 performances to film, because they filmed all of them.
And it was live?
And then they... Oh, yeah, there's live audience with them. Well, I think... Maybe it was just one performance. I know I might be a little confused, because I know with Shrek the Musical, there were 3 performances. They did 2 with an audience that they filmed, and then they did 1 without. So anytime you're watching Shrek the Musical on Netflix, anytime you see like the camera doing close-ups to them on stage, that's cut in from the show they did without the audience.
Yeah.
But Hamilton doesn't do that. Hamilton doesn't have any on-stage shots. So they might have only done 1 show, and that's it.
And wasn't it filmed during the pandemic, or was it?
No, it was filmed before the pandemic.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Man.
Because it actually wasn't supposed to release until the following year. Yeah. But because the world was shut down and everybody was home, Disney was like, well, we're going to bump this and we're going to put it out sooner.
And man, did they bump it? Whoa.
It became huge.
It was, I mean, and before it was this big phenomenon, because I remember the last time I went to New York, that was about 3, maybe 4 years ago. Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen were the top contenders, at that time. But it's crazy, because everyone has told me to go watch Hamilton, but I don't know. I usually don't like to watch a production before I go see it.
I don't think you'll be disappointed by this one, though.
Yeah,
I really don't, because
I want to be surprised. I just want to go in there not knowing a single thing, watch it with an audience. And that's what I did with Come From Away. I got to see it in New Orleans.
Before you saw it, because I know there's a movie version of that too.
And the movie version is the greatest, the top number 1 for me that I've ever seen of a production that was filmed.
Now, see, my number 1 right now is one I haven't seen yet. It is number 1 on my wish list. And it is because of the cast more than anything else. And I will see it this year before the original cast is gone. I have already decided. I don't care if I have to spend $300 for the ticket. I will go, because the original
Music
cast,
Man?
Yes. Bingo. Hugh Jackman, he is my all-time favorite, not all-time favorite. He is my favorite living actor right now. Robin Williams will always be my favorite actor, but Hugh is my favorite living actor right now, has been for a long time. And him and Sutton Foster, dude. I have to see that show. Shortly before his tour started, he was going on the Today Show in New York, and he was going to be performing outside in front of the Rockefeller Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center in New York at Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
My friend Jill ended up getting 2 tickets. And she asked me, she's like, do you want to come up and join me? I was like, you don't even have to ask. Like, I'm clearing my schedule. I'm going. So I got to New York. I think it was like a Thursday morning. I got up to New York Wednesday night. A friend of mine used her miles to book me a hotel room at the Sheraton in Times Square. So I stayed overnight in Times Square Thursday night or Wednesday night. Got up to New York. I went Wednesday night. I walked around Rockefeller Center. I walked around the tree. I did all my sightseeing Wednesday night. Checked into the hotel, stayed in the hotel, woke up at 4 a.m. to walk down to Rockefeller Center to get in line. And I got to see Hugh Jackman perform outside in front of the Rockefeller Center tree in New York City at Christmas.
Yeah, I'll never do that.
It is a once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime, for sure.
That I'm so happy that I got to do.
Yeah. Wow, man.
And I will cherish getting to do that too, because I got to I got to shake hands with him, because he did. The beauty of it was he did 2 songs. He did a song from Les Mis and he did a song from The Greatest Showman.
Yep.
Greatest Showman is my all-time favorite musical. All-time favorite.
Hands up, hands down. Me too.
All-time favorite musical. I saw that in theaters 6 times.
I saw it 11.
I knew the words to every song before I even saw it in the theater, because I was listening to the soundtrack, because it released 2 weeks before the movie. So he did 1 song from Les Mis and he did 1 song from Greatest Showman, but he had to rehearse too. So while he didn't go live until 8 o'clock, at 6 a.m. he was outside. Ooh, practicing and performing. So those 2 songs we got to hear a number of times.
Wow.
Before the actual live performance on television.
Wow.
So it was basically a 3-hour long concert with Hugh Jackman where he only just played 2 songs.
That is insane.
But I didn't care.
No.
And in between song rehearsals, he's on the mic, he's joking with the crowd, he's going around, he's meeting everybody, he's taking pictures with people in between. He was fantastic.
Yeah. You're definitely lucky, because I promise you, I don't think I'll ever get such an opportunity as that. First of all, I live too far away from New York for anything like that to happen.
I'm still here. I know I'm off camera. I'm looking for something that I'm going to show you.
Oh, sweet.
As soon as I can find...
You got your ticket?
No, I got my... Oh, is this going to come off here? It's mixed in with all my other damn badges and stuff. Crap. I don't know if it's going to... I might have to lean the lamp in. Yeah, I got to lean the lamp in.
Oh. This
is my badge autographed by Hugh Jackman.
Come on, man.
From the concert series for the Today Show.
Wow. A lot of friends who go see it every week.
Every week?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
These friends.
I mean, I don't even know what they do for a living, but they tell me, I'm a night owl, so I'm awake, and they're texting me at 3 o'clock. Hey, I'm on the train going to see, go and do Rush for the Music Man. I'm like, oh man. My
friend Erin constantly throws it in my face that she saw Spam a lot when it was Tim Curry and oh God, I can't remember the other cast names, but Tim Curry was still King Arthur.
Oh yeah.
And I love these casts. I refuse to miss out on the Music Man when it's Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster.
Yes.
I refuse. And I know they are scheduled to be on. I know they are scheduled to be in that show until September. Once Hugh is done with Music Man, he's going back to movies for about a year or 2.
Yeah.
Until he's returning to Broadway again for The Greatest Showman.
Yep.
Because they're doing a Broadway version of Greatest Showman.
I'm waiting. I'm
Me
trying
too.
to be patient.
Oh, me too. And from what I understand, most of the cast of the movie is coming to the stage performance for at least the first couple months.
Yeah.
So man, that's a show that I will easily go to.
I'm going to be flying out. And easily, no question.
Dude, just fly
about
into
it.
Philly. You can crash at my house and we'll take the train.
Yeah, man.
We'll take the train up and rush the tickets together.
See, we both taught each other a lot of things.
Right? I hope you taught your audience a bunch of things too.
I know, because my audience is probably like, wait a minute.
They're still talking?
Thank you so much for coming on, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, this was fun.
We're going to have you on a lot.
I'm going to have you on Wilhelm too.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Because movie, and especially movies, like I can talk about it for unlimited times. Like we didn't even get to talk about Logan, how much of a masterpiece that movie is.
Jesus.
But we should definitely dedicate an episode just talking about Hugh Jackman one day.
Right? Oh, there will be an episode of my Wilhelm podcast, which is top 5 favorite Hugh Jackman movies.
Ooh,
so,
dude,
that's a tough one for me.
That's a tough one because he is phenomenal in everything he's ever done.
I mean, Greatest Showman, Logan, as you mentioned, like
Prisoners.
oh my God, Prisoners, The Prestige. God, there's so many.
Dude,
but hopefully your audience checks out Wilhelm too, because
absolutely. Send me all the links afterwards, and I'll make sure to put that in the description, and so you guys can find that below, and that way we can keep up with each other, you know.
Or they can also just go to facebook.com/the Wilhelm Podcast.
All right, man. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you next week, buddy.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
See you later, man.
Yeah.